Hey guys. So I decided, sorry about my boob. I'm in an off shoulder top and well, the boobs are hanging out. But I decided I'm going to do a video. This is a video about Chad, but this is probably the last video I'm going to make about it because this is a more honest video talking more so about the why I hung on to him as long as I did, considering the circumstances that we were in. Like, long story short, as best as I can make it, I met Chad, and I guess this is for people who might be new to the channel that don't know the story about me and Chad. Like, I met Chad when I was 18, and I moved into this Section 8 apartment complex in the middle of this shithole town. This country ass town that had like one grocery store and like $1 store and like 3 gas stations and like nothing else. And they had this little Section 8 apartment complex that like all the teenagers wound up moving to when they moved out of like their parents' house and stuff like that. And we wound up moving there too, me and my husband, my boyfriend at the time. We were engaged. And we moved there when I was 18 and he was 17. He's 3 months younger than me, my boyfriend was. And so he was finishing up high school, or had just finished up high school, but he hadn't turned 18 just quite yet. He had like 3 months left before he would be 18. So like his grandma signed the lease for him, and I was already 18, so I signed the lease as an 18-year-old. And we moved in there, and Chad was immediately in the apartment right next to us. So my husband one day, he was like, he needed some sugar to bake a cake or some brownies or some shit it was. And he went over next door and got it from Chad and came home. When I came home from work that night, he was like really excited. He was like, there's this amazing guy you got to meet. And we went over there, and he was like, he's a guitarist. You got to meet him because I was a guitarist. And he was like, I think you'll really like him. And that's how we met. So I spent the next year over there at Chad's house. And David, my husband or fiance or whatever, he was in the military. So he left for like 2 or 3 months to finish the second half of his military training. So it was basically just me and Chad and his baby. He had like a 1-year-old baby, a newborn baby. And most days it was just me, Chad, and the baby for like 4 or 5 hours. And then our friend Queese would show up. It was like a dude that everybody knew, and he was a musician too. And so he was friends with David, he was friends with Chad, he was friends with like everybody knew him, he was friends with like everybody. So it would normally be either me, Chad, and Chad's baby, and then it would be Queese would show up at some point in the day. Other mutual friends would eventually show up, and everybody was smoking weed and getting drunk, but it was mainly smoking weed. So that's what we did. We played a lot of video games. Sometimes we would play guitar, and that's just what we did for like the whole year. So me and Chad wound up getting really close. But the problem with Chad was he came across kind of sociopathic. And I still think he's a sociopath. There's one of two things that's going on with Chad. Like, he was an alcoholic, but like a functioning alcoholic, to the point where you never saw him drink. I didn't even realize he was drinking, but like he had dozens of empty whiskey bottles in his kitchen, like on above the kitchen shelves. Like he just had bottles and bottles and bottles of empty bottles just above his kitchen shelf. And so I assumed like they were bottles he had collected over the years or whatever, just bottles he had. And I never put 2 and 2 together at the time that he was drinking through all those bottles while he was in the apartment, or that he had drank all those bottles. Like, it didn't occur to me where the bottles had come from. They were just there in my head. But like, I was 18, so I wasn't really thinking all that clearly. I just saw the bottles. I didn't assume that he was drinking them until one night he wanted to play guitar with me in my apartment. So he came over with his guitar. It was just me and him playing guitar, and he brought me a glass of whiskey, and I never saw the bottle of whiskey. I don't know where he had it, but he just manifested a glass of whiskey for me, and it kind of started to click that he always was drunk, or he always had alcohol in his system, and he was Irish. And if you know anything about Irishmen, sometimes when they drink, they can become very violent. Like their alcohol doesn't work well in a lot of Irishmen's bloodstream. Like it makes them aggressive and violent. Like it's just something about Irish people that it doesn't work well with their body chemistry. So one of two things was going on. One, he was behaving the way he was because he was drunk all the time and it was making him act weird, or he was just a sociopath and that was just the way he acted. So no one really knows whether he's a sociopath or he was just drunk and he's Irish and that's just what the alcohol was making him act like. So I still don't know which one it is, but like his alcohol was making him act so poorly, everybody thought he was somewhere on the ASPD spectrum. So that gives you some idea what his personality was like. But like he was so split right clean down the middle that like he was so magnetic, because like I like any Irish guy, he was like so fucking happy and bubbly and cheerful and like the life of the party and social butterfly, so fucking happy that like it was infectious. Like he was always laughing, he was always smiling, he was always rambunctious and open and happy to see people, and like extroverted and always in your face with conversation, and made you feel like your best friend in the world, made you feel so close. And like he did that with strangers, he did that with like people he knew really well, he did that with people he spent a lot of time with. Like he just made you feel like the center of his world whenever you were together. So like everyone felt super close to him, but because he had that split personality type of shit going on, whether it was alcohol or sociopathy, nobody wanted to be close to him at the same time. So it was like a lot of two-faced backstabby shit was going on with a lot of the people that he was friends with, where it was like everybody really adored him, but nobody wanted to really get too close to him because he was so cutthroat. At the same time, it was like bipolarness, where like his mood would just flip in the switch of a button, or you could be just having the best time ever and then he would just say the most meanest shit to you out of nowhere, and the room would go cold, and then it would just be on eggshells, and then like 15 minutes later he'd be back to happy and bubbly, and you be on eggshells like, I'm not in the mood to be happy and bubbly. So it was a lot of tension and smiling through gritted teeth, and that would be just that day after he said that. But then like the next day everything would be fine, and you would tentatively approach him like, is he in a good or bad mood? And that's kind of like the tone of how everything kind of went, where it was like you would be really happy to see him, but it was with precaution and with guardedness. So kind of like, I don't know, like there's no one else I've ever met that was like him. Like if you go into his bathroom, he's got like the happiest affirmations on his bathroom wall, and that puts you in a good mood, and you're like, you think about his personality and you're like, that's so Chad, and that's great. And then you go downstairs and he's playing guitar and he's got a crowd around him and it's awesome, and he's smoking weed, so he's like in a really chill, relaxed mood, and he's kicking ass on Call of Duty, and he's got like a crowd in the kitchen, and he's telling all these stories, and like he's the life of the party, and everybody's laughing and everybody's happy and everybody wants to come chill at his house, and like he's like the center of everybody's attention. But he'll also stand in a group of a crowd and single someone out and say something kind of halfway mean, halfway playful, and nobody knows how to take it. Like, is he being serious or is he just joshing around? So you never really know what you're gonna get with him, like, and you don't know how to respond or how to take it either. So like, it's just, he was drunk all the time, and it's exactly how it sounds. It's like, I don't know if I should like this dude or if I should not like this guy, and that's the general impression he gave. It's like you like him, but you also really don't like him at the same time because he's so hot and cold. So that's the nature of our relationship, is he was hot and cold. So I wound up kind of falling in love with him after being at his house every day for a year, and watching the way he took care of his daughter was really one of those things that kind of got to my soft side, because he was really a really good dad, and like he was always playing with his daughter, and she was so cute. And like just seeing that father-daughter bond, because I didn't have that growing up. Like I had never seen a dad with his daughter, And like it was just so sweet and so cute, and he was always like taking care of her and changing her and feeding her and playing with her, and he doted on her so hard. And it was just, he looked so like his purest self when he was with his daughter, and it was like no harm, no foul. Like she brought out the best side of him, and it was just like you could truly see his real colors when he was around her. So he seemed benign when he was with his daughter for the most part. Like he just seemed generally good when he was with her, which is the side of him that I saw the most. So like it just gave me this impression that like he was showboating more than anything when he would get in a crowd. Like he felt the need to, with this sociopathy, which is what he seemed like he was like he was trying to play social games or trying to elevate himself to make himself look bigger in a crowd. Like he was addicted to attention, or he was addicted to being the center of attention, or he had glibness or superficial charm is how he came across more than anything. So it's kind of like he can only be charming if he's being domineering, or he can only be charming if all eyes are on him, but with a hint of nastiness. Like he can only, like he can't really perform in a group. He doesn't really know how to be the center of attention. He doesn't really know how to do this. He doesn't really know how to do that. It was like he was always performing, and you could sense that like he wasn't actually comfortable in that role, but he was forced into that role because everybody liked him so much, and he didn't know what to do with it. Like he was just a strange bundle of everything. So he kind of at one point made it clear that he had an interest in me, and I didn't take him up on it at the time, because at that time he had just gotten married to his girlfriend who lived with him at the house, and she barely was ever in the house, and she worked, and he was a stay-at-home dad. And so like she would sometimes be in the picture, very rarely, but like the problem came into the picture when the two of them would get into fights, which is another thing. Like me and my husband David, like he was really abusive to me, so he would hit me and rape me and do all this nasty shit. And then Chad and his girlfriend Ashley, when they got married, like they would get into these 3-hour long fights where like the walls would be vibrating with like them fighting each other, and like he would be screaming at the top of his lungs, and it literally would go on for 3 hours. And it happened like 3 times in the span of that year. And I remember approaching him and trying to help him with it, and you know, like nobody else was offering them any help, and everybody thought he was just an abusive piece of shit. But like Ashley was hitting him and starting fights, and he was not exactly the best man, because he would hit her back and defend himself and get mad, and being Irish and drunk, like he didn't have the ability to not do that. So, you know, it was not an ideal situation, and I don't know if he was aware that the alcohol was making him act that way, if he had any inclination, or if he was simply an alcoholic and could not help himself at that point, which is more than like